All right, we are live. Oh my gosh, this is my first live. I'm super excited. I'm live both on TikTok and here on the YouTube. Hey guys, my name is Dr. Yeni Abraham, and I'm so excited to be here for the first ever Fertility Fridays. And we're going to have a lot of fun today. So, just a little bit about me because I don't assume that everyone here knows me, but I'm a fertility specialist or fertility expert. I'm actually a pelvic floor therapist, turned fertility specialist based out of the North Texas area. And fertility is my jam. I've gone through infertility. I've been on the patient side and the personal side. So, really wanted to start having these conversations and sharing stories because, y'all, I get real stories. Okay, real stories. And I got real. I mean, this is like stuff that I know that many people are going to be very surprised is happening, but hopefully you see yourself in these stories and this becomes a really helpful platform. Did want to also note that for future episodes, I have an anonymous link or an anonymous form that you can always fill out. It's going to be living on my bio links and also going to be living if you're watching from YouTube. It's available in the post stream as well as pretty much under every episode description now. So, y'all, let's get into today's topic. So, help. I'm bleeding so much I can't leave the house. Y'all, I feel like Shirley Strawberry setting this up. Help. I'm bleeding so much I can't leave the house. All right, let's share the story. So, dear Dr. Yeni, I almost didn't go to my best friend's wedding because of how bad my period was. I had on black pants and two pads, and I still bled through in the car. I was so embarrassed. I turned around and went home. Oh my gosh. I've used overnight pads during the day, and I've started carrying a change of clothes in my purse just in case. Oh my gosh. My doctor said it was just a heavy flow and told me to go on the pill. But I don't want to be on medication without understanding why this is happening. I'm 33, not on birth control, and I'm trying to conceive. I'm starting to feel like my body is working against me. Oh my gosh, that is such a real thing right here. Like, y'all, I have so much that I'd love to unpack in this already. But imagine, first of all, having to wear black pants to your friend's wedding. So already I'm seeing that wardrobe is being impacted here, right? So she has to wear black pants to her friend's wedding. She's got two pads and it's bleeding through. And now she's made a habit of having to carry around an extra set of clothes just to exist because of how bad her periods are. All right. So this is real life. And she also said she's using overnight pads during the day, which is very much a red flag. Whenever you're seeing someone having to use overnight pads during the day, that's very much giving red flag. But the part that is the most heartbreaking is going to her doctor and her doctor saying it's just a heavy flow. What does that even mean? What does a heavy flow mean? Like, what does that characterize, right? Just a heavy flow. Get on the pill. We'll talk about the pill in a second. But she doesn't want to get on the medication without understanding why this is happening. And I'm so happy. So I'm going to stop there and say a couple things right now. If you already are hearing yourself in the story, I can't tell you how common this is for people to have such heavy periods, right? And she is bleeding out. She's bleeding out through multiple pads. There's a problem, but it's definitely very common, right? That we're hearing this. And like I always tell people, like if you are having to use an overnight pad during the day, not normal. So let's talk about normal versus abnormal. Okay. An abnormal flow, or rather normal flow, should really mean that, especially days 1 to 2, your heaviest days of menstruation, you should only have to use one or two pads, or you should only have to use one pad every 3 hours. If you're using tampon, you're changing that tampon every 2 to 3 hours at the most, right? That's your heaviest day. You shouldn't have to use an overnight pad during the day. Okay. I've even had people tell me that they're using diapers, adult diapers, in place of pads because that reinforcement isn't, that's not normal. That is considered abnormal period flow. All right. So if you or anyone you know is having heavy menstruation and is using overnight pads during the day or has reverted to using a diaper, an adult diaper, and an adult diaper, right, by the way, is not because the pads aren't available, but because perhaps, like this person said, they know that they're going to bleed through the pad easily, bingo, this is a red flag. All right. This is indicative that we're in abnormal territory. So if you or someone you know is in abnormal territory because of the choice that they're using, I mean, I have people that have never been able to use a tampon before, right? Because the tampon can't reinforce, or one that's common, tampon and pad. Let's add the two of those together. That's not normal. All right. Having to use both at the same time is not normal. All right. So your body shouldn't be making enough menstrual blood, right? Or you shouldn't have such heavy flow that one maxi pad, one regular super pad can't manage it, especially those first 2 days. All right. So already know that that's abnormal. If you are finding yourself that you have to consider different garments, different, and you have to pick apart what clothes to wear, if you have to pick apart what clothes to wear because of your period, you're in abnormal territory. All right. And this is not normal. I know some people, because I'm going to be honest, I'm West African. All right. And in our community growing up, it was very normal for people to have heavy periods. I've had people in Caribbean communities, in Hispanic communities. Oh, it's normal. It's just part of it. It's part of it to miss school. It's part of it to have to reorganize your life, miss out on events. That is not normal. All because it is common doesn't make it normal. All right. So I'm going to be really frank here that for this girl that is having to wear black, I'm sure she doesn't want to wear black to a friend's wedding. Hello. I'm sure she has a cute dress that she wanted to wear, but that wasn't an option for her, right? I mean, I know that even myself, there's been times like, in the past where my period was so heavy and it's like, I can't wear certain colors. Okay, that is not normal because you shouldn't be bleeding enough where you have to change your garments or change the clothing that you're wearing. All right. So, one thing that she said here that was also pretty alarming is having to carry a change of clothes just in case. So it's showing that she's likely bleeding so much that, I mean, this has probably happened before where she just had to change her clothes where it's gone the way through. And then of course her doctor said it's just a heavy flow. So, let me give you guys some normal measures. Science tells us that during the entire duration of a menstrual cycle, by the way, a menstrual cycle normally should last anywhere between 3 and 7 days. All right. During that duration, you should be losing about 80 milliliters of blood, which means that you shouldn't be changing. If you're changing your pad every hour, you're likely losing more than that. All right. So between 80 to 80 milliliters, which is really about 4 to maybe 5 pads a day during your heaviest days. Okay. And then on your light days, you should be changing your pad anywhere between 3 to 4 times. And you should be using a light pad or a light tampon. That's normal. Okay. If it's outside of that or you're noticing fluctuations, like if you notice like you used to always have a light period and suddenly it gets very, very heavy and it's staying heavy, that's abnormal. Okay. And really what could be an underlying factor, and again, this is not to diagnose you, but there are a couple things I think that are important to share here. If you are noticing this, it could be indication that there's some level of hormonal balance. So sometimes if you have a hormonal balance, like you've got issues with estrogen or progesterone balance, it can also indicate that. But I commonly see heavy bleeding when people have uterine fibroids or even PCOS. All right. So sometimes heavy bleeding, because the menstrual cycle is a vital sign. All right. We treat it as a vital sign the same way that we're going to take your blood pressure, your respiratory rate, all of that is considered a vital sign. All right. Your menstrual cycle is considered a vital sign. So when your menstrual cycle suddenly changes, you have to take that seriously. It's the same reason why you would take it seriously. I'd hope so. If your blood pressure suddenly spiked or your respiratory rate suddenly spiked, right? Or your pulse started getting really fast, my hope is that you would take that seriously because that can be indicative, right? That something abnormal is going on in your cardiovascular system. It's the same thing that if your periods suddenly get really, really, really heavy, okay, or they suddenly start to change, or you start to have a lot of clots, all right. If you're noticing that you're producing dark brown clotty cycles, and they're lasting for multiple days, then that can be indication that there's underlying dysfunction and that there is a problem with your reproductive system. So commonly we see that in fibroids. We see that especially if someone has PCOS, they have irregular cycles. And so maybe when they finally do have a cycle, it's heavy, it's painful, it lasts for a long time. In some cases too, if we have thyroid dysfunction, all right, that can also impact the reproductive system as well. So here's what I want you to do if this sounds like you. And for this girl that wrote this or had this story, here's what I want you to consider. For your next 2 cycles, I want you to track your bleeding. Common cycle tracking apps. I mean, there's so many cycle tracking apps out there. All right. And honestly, I try not to endorse a specific one, but I do have ones that I really like. Clue app is a really good one. All right. Clue is like the OG menstrual, not trying to get pregnant, but it really does a good job at being able to manage the cycle length and knowing predictability. So Clue app. Also, Flow app is really good as well, especially if you're trying to conceive. And if you've got an Aura ring like I do, I definitely recommend using Natural Cycles. Natural Cycles can be a really helpful tool for you to track your cycles. But I want you to track your bleeding. So I don't want you to just track when your period starts, but I want you to use that comment section and track out and put in there, bleeding was heavy, change pads every hour, lots of clots today. All right. If you can stomach it and you're not grossed out, take a picture of it, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to try to use this data collection as a way for you to build a case so that you can advocate for yourself better with your doctor. All right. And so track your bleeding for the next 2 cycles. All right. And then what I want you to do, step 2, is I want you to take this tracking cycle, make an appointment with your OBGYN. All right. Or if you have a primary physician that does pap smears and does women's health and accessibility is an issue, go see your PCP, but OBGYN for sure. And I want you to ask your doctor to run labs. All right. So common labs that you can run: FSH, all right, LH, TSH, estrogen, and progesterone. All right. I'm going to say these again. All right. FSH, okay, LH, TSH, and progesterone and estrogen. All right. So these are the gonna labs that you're going to want your doctor to run, because if they can run these labs for you, it will pick up any hormonal imbalance that could be an underlying reason why the heavy bleeding is happening. All right. Step 3, I want you to try a couple of home tools to help with the heavy bleeding. Number one thing that I often see with a lot of people, and we make a lot of jokes about it online now, is low iron. All right. Where are the anemia girls at? Come on. Where are my low iron girls at? Always cold in every setting, always tired and sleepy the week before your period, need to lay down somewhere. Okay. If you notice that you have fatigue, your skin gets pale in color the week before your period, all right, and during your period, and if you notice that you suddenly get really, really cold all the time and you feel a metallic taste in your mouth, or you desire metallic foods, you got low iron, sis. I just saved you a trip to a doctor's office. You're likely anemic, all right? And the thing is, iron is actually one of the few minerals that we can easily access through our eating, through our diets, all right? Iron-rich foods, there are leafy vegetables like kale, collard greens, Swiss chard. Those are some really good ways to get iron. But my favorite is just eat a steak. And this is going to be really hard for my die-hard plant-based vegetarian vegans. And again, I'm not against that, because I think do you, boo. But what I often find in a lot of people is that when you are eating a certain type of way, whether it's vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, whatever, oftentimes we are not eating balanced we don't have a nutrient balance in our diet, right? So it's like, y'all, I know everybody knows the person who's gone vegetarian, but all they eat is carbs, right? It's like they've literally loaded up on more carbs in their diet, carbs and starches, right? And so, and a lot of research even tells us that a majority of women who are doing plant-based diet literally are unable to get enough protein and enough nutrients, right? Because plants are often just not made to support a protein rich, iron dense diet. All right. But again, consult a nutritionist if this is really a concern of yours. But an easy fix is just to eat more steak, sis. Eat more high quality steak, high quality meats that are iron rich. I always say go for the like the 80, what is it, the 85 to 20 or 15% ratio meat, right? So you want a little bit of marbling, a little bit of fat in there, but you do want that high quality meat. That's going to be what you're going to do to get your iron up. All right. Another favorite of mine are castor oil packs. Now, not everyone is appropriate to take castor oil pack or use castor oil packs, especially if you've got like blood coagulation issues. But castor oil packs can be an incredible tool to help manage pain with your periods, discomfort, and the heaviness of your bleeding. All right. And the great thing is, it's relatively cheap and easy for you to make at home. I also know that people do sell castor oil packs on Etsy, but I say make them your own. Google how to make a castor oil pack and make sure that a couple of days before your period, you start placing it over your abdomen and you can be able to get a lot of relief and support ahead of your period. And then, of course, make sure that you're getting enough rest right before your period starts and you are hydrating. It would shock you that the average American does not drink enough water. All right. I always say that take your body weight and divide it in half, all right? And you should be drinking about that amount. We are 70% water. And especially during high need periods, whether that's pregnancy, right before your menstrual cycle and during your menstrual cycle, whenever there's a high demand of hormone need in your body, you need to have additional H2O in your system. All right. So this is the time where, like me, I always got my Stanley on standby. Okay. And we need to be hydrated. All right. So, like, let's say regularly I'm drinking about 2 or 3 of these a day. During my period, I'm drinking about 3 or 4 of these a day. I know. And it seems kind of extreme if you're not a heavy water drinker, but this can really help to replenish you and make sure also that your body has an assistance in absorbing the nutrients from the foods that you are eating. All right. So, bonus, if you get your labs back and your labs from your doctor are abnormal, advocate for a pelvic ultrasound and go see a pelvic floor therapist. All right. This is where a pelvic floor therapist can really, really help with pain during your periods, because sometimes whenever you have prolonged heavy bleeding and prolonged pain with your periods, it can cause pelvic spasming. It can cause changes to the way your pelvic floor is going to be. So sometimes you can get like tightness and pain in your pelvic floor. And if you see a pelvic floor therapist, they can help reduce that pain through some techniques, and that can actually make your periods much more tolerable and comfortable. All right. So this is really key that I want you to think about. Now, thinking about our story of the girl or this story that we heard about, I just want to talk to her real quick because, sis, like, the fact that you've been bleeding that heavily, I could tell already how frustrated, but I want you to know that I see you and you're going to be okay. All right. And I don't want you to feel dismissed. I know that, and I'm going to be soapboxy here. In Western medicine, we don't often have the bandwidth or the time to do preventative medicine. I'll admit this, all right? As somebody who works in the allied side of healthcare, I have been given the privilege and the autonomy to have more time. But I couldn't do that in a regular insurance setting. So when I built my own practice, I had more one-on-one time with my patients, which is not regular, right? But I want you to understand that this system is not built for preventative medicine, because in order for you to really give people the care they need, you need time. In order for you to really get people to be preventative about greater diseases or larger issues, is you need time. And so because we're operating in a system that doesn't have the bandwidth for preventative medicine, it's important that you are girded with tools to be more autonomous and have greater advocacy skills as a patient. So what does that mean? You have to know how to figure out what the data points and what's wrong with your body and know how to communicate that to your doctor. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy, but it's the reality. You got to know that, okay, this period is abnormal. These are the labs that I need to be drawn, right? And you almost have to shout this from the mountaintops and get your provider to pay attention to these things, because they will know what to do diagnostically to help you, right? But a lot of times doctors don't have time to sit there for 20, 30 minutes and explain all these things to you. So this is why we have to be heavily informed. If you are paying attention to what is happening in this country, in this world right now, you will know that the more educated and the more equipped you are as a person, as a woman, the better you're going to be able to take care of yourself and advocate for yourself in healthcare. And we won't have missed problems, right? I've had patients who have had missed fibroids for years that has affected their fertility, that has made menopause hell, right? I've had women who literally they go into menopause and they don't even know they're in menopause. Do you know that the research tells us that African American women go into menopause 10 years before their Caucasian counterparts? Yes. Black women go into menopause, start showing signs of menopause as early as 10 years before their Caucasian counterparts. It's crazy, y'all. All right. Hispanic women go into menopause a whole whopping 8 years on average before their Caucasian counterparts. That means that if you are a 37-year-old Black and brown woman and you are dealing with night sweats and irregularity to your periods, somebody said really in the chat. Yes, really. If you are 37, 38, and you are having irregular periods, night sweats, changes to your mood, you could be in menopause, sis. Hello. You could be in menopause. And so I want to educate us because a lot of us don't know this. And this is really hard, right? I'm taking a little bit of a tangent here, but this is why we're doing this. It's Fertility Fridays. But this is really hard because I have people who are 38 years old trying to get pregnant, right? For the first time. And their periods, they haven't had a regular period in like a year or two. Their periods are all over the place and they don't know that they're already showing signs of perimenopause, right? And so this is really important because if you know that and this is where also too genetics plays a part. So we've got the race thing that can play into menopause, but we also have genetics. You have to learn how to talk to the women in your family. And I know that a lot of us come from different families where we don't talk about our health. Heck, some of y'all don't even know that the reason why Granny died was because she had high blood pressure that was uncontrolled, that then led to the stroke. And that's why she passed away, right? So I understand that in a lot of communities, Black communities especially, brown communities, immigrant communities, hey, we all have it. The thing about it is family dynamics, no color. Okay, everybody got problems. But a lot of times, in families, we're not sharing the real reality. So we don't know that your auntie went into menopause at 30, 38, or mom went into menopause at 37. And sometimes too, we don't know that because auntie and mom got hysterectomies when they were 37 or 40 because their periods were so bad. Hello. Boom. I know. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot to think about. So I say all this to say that this is really important that if you are having irregularities with your cycle and heaviness in your bleeding, if you have the opportunity to have honest conversations, right? Somebody said you right in the chat. Thank you. I am thank you. Yes, it's real. Having the opportunity to talk to your family is so important, right? Women, and if your mom is closed off, maybe she's old school and she's not really into talking about the details, call your auntie, call your favorite cousin, call that cousin that knows everything about everybody. And she'll tell you the realness. I have a cousin like that right now. I could call her right now and be like, tell me about what happened in such and such year. Or why really did my grandmother die? True story. So after I had my son, true story, after I had my son, my aunt was with me. My aunt is like the matriarch of my family. All right. And if anybody have ever spent time with like elders in their family, We know that there's a certain season in life where elders start sharing stories. Anybody know? If you know what I'm talking about, throw it in the chat. Elders just start telling everybody's business and sharing stories about everybody, anybody, all the time. All right. If you know what I'm talking about, throw it in the chat. Yes. And they start telling random stories about somebody got a secret kid. Billy Bob did this. Nene and them did that. Pookie and them did this. Like they start giving you all the family tea. All right. Now, if your ear hustle game is good, hopefully it is. If your ear hustle game is good, you're going to pay attention to those seasons when they give you this reality and they give you the tea about the family. And so, true story, and I'm a share because I got so much. When my aunt was here, she told me everything I needed to know. But that was when I found out that the real reason my paternal grandmother died so young was because I had blood pressure. And the crazy thing is, after I had my son, I was having issues with high blood pressure. And I never seen it in my family. I didn't even know that we had high blood pressure in our family, right? But because she said it on a whim, I started to take my blood pressure seriously. And so I want your ear hustle game to get strong. I don't care if it's a yapping elder, okay? I don't care if it is a cousin you have to call, but people, women, men, whoever's listening, please talk to your family members while you can and understand medical history, understand irregularities in reproductive history. It will surprise you how many women don't even know that their mothers struggled to get pregnant or that their mothers had miscarriages. Hello. I'm telling you, true story. They didn't even know that their mothers had miscarriages, y'all. They didn't even know that their mothers had miscarriages. Isn't that something? Right. And so and especially, and I think too, like I said, I'm West African, Nigerian. So I'm first gen Nigerian. But when I have these conversations with my friends who are Caribbean, with my friends who are like, even like just regular immigrant, like Indian communities, Paki, Filipino, people don't talk. I live in Texas, so I speak to a lot of Hispanic people, and it's the same thing, right? People don't give you the reality, like, oh yeah, I did lose a baby, blah blah blah, or they lost the baby, but it was under investigated. Someone said, "Do you know where? Do you know where our mothers that never tell their children that they love them?" That's so real, right? That's so real. Someone says that there are mothers who don't even tell their children that they love them. So it's real. Like, so how would they even tell them about their medical history? And this is the thing too, is when you start going through fertility issues, when you start going through certain physical health problems, it can be a really triggering reality to a lack of family support and a lack of family transparency. And that can be hard, right? When you that's the reason where you realize, like, dang, like I don't even like have that level of transparency with my moms, or I don't have that transparency with my family members. Like, who will I call to tell me, right, this thing? So I'm going to be honest, like, it could be very triggering. At the same time, there's got to be somebody, right? Because it might not, like I said, it might not be your mom that might be the best person. Maybe she's closed off, right? But like, it could be a cousin. It could be a cousin twice removed who knows everything. If you are blessed enough to have a living grandparent, I unfortunately don't have any living grandparents anymore. But if you're blessed to have a living grandparent or an elder in your family, this would be a great time while their memory is still sharp, while there's an opportunity to just record, like call them one day and just hit record. You might not need that information today, but it might be years down the line that you need that information, right? It might not be today. You might not even be going through fertility issues today. You might be listening to this and you 22 years old, out here living your best life. You in Cabo today, you in Paris tomorrow. All right. But the thing is, fertility issues, hormone problems is the only thing that does not respect time. It's one of the very few medical issues that is no respecter of time. I have seen women 27 years old with egg quality issues, not enough eggs, right? And I've seen issues with women in their early 40s with the same exact problem, somebody with 27. Like, it's no respecter. And it's funny to me. I think I heard this recently. It's kind of funny. She was this provider, this fertility specialist, she was saying on a podcast, she was like, the funny thing is infertility or fertility issues is literally the only medical problem that we will say it can wait, but it can't. We'll say it can wait. Or I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Somebody said exactly. Yeah. That I'll cross. I hate that, by the way. I can't stand it. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And you don't even realize that by the time you get there, it'll be too late to cross it. It'll be too late. The cost will be too late to cross it, right? And so this is why from now, if you are noticing, like this girl that wrote this story, God bless you, and if you see yourself in this story, God bless you. She's over here clearly having problems. She's 33. She doesn't want to go on the pill. Her periods are heavy, but nobody is giving her the facts. This is why you need to equip yourself to know, because time is not waiting. Sis, time is not on our side when it comes to fertility issues. Time is not on our side when it comes to hormonal dysfunction. Okay, so last week I put a post on my Instagram and on my TikTok about microplastics. All right. And it was a recent research study that just came out, and it was showing microplastics. Y'all know what microplastics are? Microplastics are literally like, okay, so you know how there's a lot of research now about like sustainability, polyurethane, like microplastics are often found like in cutting boards. Like if you have plastic cutting boards, sometimes they're found in like toys. A lot of beauty products that have parabens in there can have microplastics. They essentially help to preserve and make certain products much more formidable, right? And much stronger. But the backside of using a microplastics is our body is not created to digest and or process synthetic material. And so if you're using a microplastic, right, if you're using like a makeup product that has microplastics in it all your life, you don't know the impacts of it. So imagine you're using your favorite makeup product for years. And now the research is telling us that the microplastics from that product or from the cutting board or from whatever types of products have been found in ovarian follicular fluid, which means it's been found in the ovaries. It's been found in the ovaries, y'all. What is happening? When I read that study, I was like, oh my God. Like, I feel like y'all ever seen oh, I can't think of the name, but it felt like, so my husband gets these cleaning spells. I'm sure everybody has like if you're the spouse that does this, or you have a spouse that does this, or sometimes you do it when you just like, you just had a rough day and you just go around the house and start throwing everything away. I don't need this anymore. I throw this away. I bring. That's what I felt like doing when I read that study. I was like, let me throw away every microplastic I have in my house, because that is crazy. Because what is a synthetic form doing in the ovaries? And we know that if that's going to be there, it's going to impact fertility outcomes. And so, y'all, we got to be aware of what's happening. Like we cannot be blind. We need to go in all eyes open. We need to be clear as day what is happening. All right. So if you're the type of person that says, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, even though you have heavy bleeding, I want to remind you, just like we talked about earlier on in the live, that your period is a vital sign, and it is an indicator that you need to be paying attention to a greater problem that is in your body, and you don't need to ignore it. All right. And changes in your period, whether that's changes in the length of your period, if you notice that you're having periods that are lasting up to 2 weeks, not normal. If you notice that you're having a lot of clots, not normal. If you're noticing that your period blood is suddenly changing from that bright red to dark brown, and it's like that every month, not normal. If you're bleeding through your clothes, not normal. If you're having to bring a set of change of clothes just to go to an activity, not normal. If you have to change the color of your clothing and wear dark clothing, like you want to, like, listen, funeral clothing during your menstrual cycle, not normal. All right. If you don't know when you ovulate because your periods are so irregular and come whenever, not normal. So hopefully by now you have been able to tick off a lot of abnormalities. All right. Okay. So we got to wrap this up. because I got to get to my day. But Fertility Fridays, this is what we're doing now every Friday. All right. No matter where I'm at in the world, I'm going to get on here and we're going to talk real, and we're going to share stories. Sometimes it'll be emails like I shared today from people who are sending in stories, emails. Sometimes it'll be patient stories that are approved, and sometimes there's going to be topics. Like if there's something that comes up on the news, I want to talk about it on Fridays. If you're not already subscribed to the Prolific Collective podcast, do that. So I got regular podcast episodes that go out weekly. And we've got the next new episode for the new season coming out next week. All right. But yeah, this is cool. So follow me on all my social media at Dr. Yeni _ on Instagram. And you can find me Dr. Yeni on TikTok as well. The Prolific Collective podcast by Dr. Yeni on YouTube. But y'all, this was good. If you ever have questions, click the type form in my bio. A link, it's anonymous. You can share stories. You can send in anonymous emails or messages through there so that we could tackle this. I'll catch you guys on the next Fertility Fridays. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in for my TikTok fam. They over here. Thanks for being in the chat with me and keeping things lively. All right, I'll see you guys next time. All righty. Bye.